We did it, didn't we?
Want me to pass out both of
No,
these?
not yet.
No.
We're going to start off with something else. We are going to start today. Okay, so we're going to be looking at one of the most cryptic portions in the Torah, which is the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And Rabbi Ashlag himself writes that the sages uncovered 1 handbreadth and covered 10 handbreadths. In other words, it's intentionally cryptic. All right. So before we begin,
They uncovered one.
then covered 1 handbreadth and covered 10 handbreadths, okay, in their explanations, okay? So what we're going to do first is, before we even step into the material, we're going to look at how Rabbi Ashlag and the Zohar see the stories of the Torah, okay? So we get the right mindset before we begin. So this is a piece which has actually come from the Zohar itself. It's from Zohar Ba'alot and the Perush Sulam. And we didn't print this out. There's a lot of material to print out. Okay, so I put this material on a link which Judy sent round in the WhatsApps. Okay.
Today, so
yeah,
you probably haven't seen
right. So it came out. I saw it in my WhatsApp.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there. You can press on the link and you'll find also the Hebrew and a bit more extra materials there that if you want, those people who are Baki in Hebrew might want to actually look at it up in Hebrew. But since I got an actual nice translation, which if anybody's interested, also appears in the book Master of the Ladder, the biography of Rabbi Ashlag. There's a lot of material in this book, not just about his life, but also his teachings. The book is available for sale.
Is that your book?
That's my book, yeah. Okay.
It's your latest.
What?
Your latest.
That was the latest book. Yes, that's the Master of the Ladder, the biography of Rabbi Ashlag. Okay.
Start with the prayer you usually do.
I do normally start with the prayer. Thank you, Tzipora. It's so kind of you to remind me. I'm totally sorry, I left it at home. I normally bring the prayer of the Ari, okay, before learning Kabbalah. And I certainly, I can see if I can find it on the internet here if you want. I didn't think about it. I bought a lot of pieces of paper, but I didn't think of that one. But we can, I tell you what we'll do. What we're going to do is we can dedicate up our learning today for the Refuah Shalema, for everybody who's been wounded in the ongoing war since October 7th. Okay, so everybody gets a Refuah Shalema. That's what we want. That's what I would like to dedicate our learning to.
Amen.
Okay. All right. So thank you, Tzipora. It's very kind of you. Okay, so first we're going to discover how does the Zohar look at these stories of the Torah. All right. Rabbi Shimon said, "Woe to the man who says that the Torah's purpose is to tell literal stories and stories of people like Esau and Laban and such like. For if this were so, even in these times, we could make a Torah out of the words of ordinary people, even nicer stories than these. If the purpose of the Torah were to demonstrate the affairs of the world, well, the rulers of the world have more excellent matters than those in the Torah. Then we could follow them and make a Torah from them in the same way. But all the words of the Torah are high matters and are of the highest inner meanings. Come and see, there is a higher world and a lower world, and they are weighted in the same weight. Israel below is equivalent to the higher angels above. Of the higher angels, it is written, he makes his messengers as spirits. But when the messengers, and this is the crucial bit, but when the messengers come down to this world, they are clothed in the garb of this world. They're clothed in the garments of this world. For if they were not clothed in the garments of this world, they could not survive in this world, and the world could not tolerate them. And if the angels need clothing, how much more does the Torah, which created the angels and all the worlds, and which only exists through her? The Torah came down to this world. If it were not clothed in the garments of this world, which are the stories and the words of ordinary people, the world could not tolerate it. Therefore, the story that is in the Torah is only the garment of the Torah. It's the means by which, okay? It's not the thing itself. Whoever thinks that this garment is the Torah itself and there is nothing other is crazy and will not have any portion in the next world. Okay? So what is he really saying to us? He says, don't take it literally. We're not talking about two naked people in the garden of in a beautiful garden and a talking snake. Okay? It means something, and he's going to explain to us what the meaning is. Okay, the story, just think about it. The Torah has had to tell this story to thousands and thousands of generations of people of all types all over the world. So it uses a story, okay? But if we think that the elements of the story are as they are, then the Zohar itself says that we're crazy, okay?
Wow.
Yeah.
We're supposed to understand the Torah for all of its fathers, including the Peshat.
1 second, we're going to, okay, it's a good question, okay? And I'm going to address that question in the next piece of writing we're going to look at, okay?
I missed a little bit, I'm sorry, but can I ask, does he say this is specifically about Bereshis?
No.
Or about the entire Torah?
The entire Torah, okay? And we're going to look at precisely your question, which is an excellent question, okay, in a minute. So we've got two pieces of writing before we start, all right, so that we can understand how to even look at this thing.
Where is that in the Zohar?
Sorry, Ba'alotecha, and I put the Zohar pages in the link in the smartphone. It was just too much
No, that's great.
okay? Right. Can we close off the phones, please? Therefore, the story that is in the Torah is only the garment of the Torah, and whoever thinks that this garment is the Torah itself and there's nothing other is crazy and will not have any portion in the next world. And because of this, David requested, open my eyes and I will look in the wonders of your Torah. That is to say, look at what is beneath the garment, what is beneath the outer version of the story. Okay? All right, don't take it like in this sort of very physical, literal way. Okay? People find this difficult, and I never understood why. You've got Aesop's fables, right? And I remember the story of Aesop's fables where you've got the tortoise and the hare, okay? And the tortoise and the hare run a race, okay? And the hare has a slough under the tree, and the tortoise plods on all the way, and the tortoise wins, okay? Now, even a kid in kindergarten does, or maybe a kid in kindergarten, yes, but older children, the age of 12 and 13 upwards, don't think about an actual hare and an actual tortoise running an actual race, okay? They think about what the story's there to tell us. That is, those who go steady all the way, even if they're slow, will be more likely to overtake those who are brilliant but stop all the time for sleeps under the tree, sleeps on the way. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's in the same idea that we don't need to take the story literally. On the other hand, what you pointed out has got value. In other words, it's not random that the snake is called the snake. And what does the snake mean? What do these words mean? They have meaning. It's not random, the words that are used, okay? So that's the difference, I would say, between Aesop's fables, picked a tortoise and a hare, and the Torah, which picks particular words in particular ways, okay? So we're going to look at that as well in a minute.
Which could even be that they have the gematria that
symbolize exactly, precisely. Please don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong. I am not comparing. I am just giving an easy example for us to understand. Okay? All right. Whoever thinks that this garment is the Torah itself and there's nothing other is crazy and will not have any portion in the next world. And because of this, David requested, open my eyes and I will look in the wonders of your Torah. That is to say, look at what is beneath the garment of the Torah. Come and see. There is a garment which appears to all. And those silly people who, when they see someone dressed nicely, looking splendid in his appearance, don't look further, but judge the person according to the splendor of his garment. They consider the garment as the body of the person and consider the body as if it were a soul. Likewise, for the Torah, it has a body which consists of the commandments of the Torah. This body is dressed in garments which are the stories of this world. Foolish people of the world look only at this garment which is made up of the stories of the Torah. They don't know more and don't look to see what is beneath this garment. Those who do know more don't look at the garment, but at the body beneath the outer garment. The wise men, the servants of the high king, those who stood at Mount Sinai, look only at the soul within the Torah, which is the chief aspect. It is the essence of the Torah itself. In the future to come, they will look on the innermost aspect of the soul of the Torah. Woe to those wicked who say the Torah is only a collection of stories. They are looking at the garb and no more. Happy are the righteous who look in the Torah as is fitting. Wine cannot sit except in a jug, so the Torah cannot dwell except in this garment. Therefore, we need to look only at what is beneath the garment. All the words and all the stories are garments. And this is a word-to-word translation from the Zohar itself. You can find it in the link which Judy sent round. Okay, so first of all, we've got the idea that we're not going to take it as a literal story. The actual words of the story are the garment. And Rabbi Ashlag is going to teach us what is beneath the garment, okay? We need a sage, a great sage, to be able to show us what's beneath the garment because we don't have eyes to see that ourselves, okay? So that's the first thing. I want to relate, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Yeah. What? Oh, of course, yeah, okay. So what we're going to look now is at your question, okay, and look at the language, all right, because we said the difference between Aesop's fables and the Torah is the Torah uses language in a very specific and important way, okay, and it's not just random, okay, so we're going to look at that. This is from an article called Mahi Kabbalah, and Rabbi Ashlag, which Rabbi Ashlag wrote, and it's included in the volume of Pri Chacham Ma'amarim. Okay, so this is where it's from, and I did a translation of it some time ago. Okay, so this is I prefer to read my actual translation because it's not something I've worked on. The true wisdom uses 4 languages. The first language that the true wisdom uses is the language of the Tanakh, what we call the Pshat, including the names and its attributes. The second language is the language of Halakha, Mishnah, and Talmud. This language is closest to the language of the Tanakh. The third language is the language of the Agadot, of the Midrash. This language differs totally from the language of the Tanakh because it takes no account at all of reality. It uses names and strange attributes and does not relate to the elements within it using the relationship of branch and root. The fourth language is the language of Kabbalah, of Sfirot, and Partsufim. What is the issue of branch and root? Branch and root means that every element that we have in this world that we can see, okay, books, tables, people, whatever, okay, snakes, okay, all have their particular root in the higher spiritual worlds. So there's a direct relationship between how something appears in this world, okay, and how it appears and what its essence is in the higher spiritual worlds. There's a direct relationship. Now,
so he's saying that the first 2, Torah and Mishnah, are root and branch, and
yes, that's right.
And the other 2 are not.
Yes, this is also included in there as well. Okay, yes. No, you're not correct. Sorry. The Torah, Halakha, and Kabbalah all use root and branch. The only one which doesn't is Midrash. Okay?
What does that mean?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got a relationship between elements in this world and the higher spiritual worlds. Okay, what do they actually mean? What is a snake? When you see a snake, you'll go, ugh, you know. Okay, what is a snake? Oh, why do I feel horrible? Because the root, the branch, which I see the branch in this world, has a root in the higher spiritual worlds, and that root in the higher spiritual worlds, I'll tell you right now, is the essence of the Yetzer Hara. Okay? The snake, why is it called the snake in the Garden of Eden? It wasn't by accident, because it's the particular relationship of, it's the Yetzer Hara in the Garden of Eden, comes and entices Eve, and it's portrayed as a snake. Why is it portrayed as a snake? Because the actual animal in this world, okay, which we see wriggling on the floor, which is a snake, is actually the embodiment, the essence of the Yetzer Hara. Okay, in its root, that's what it is, and that's why I think we all have an instinctive revulsion of snakes. Yes.
Is it related to the shoresh of the otiyot, the nachash?
Yes.
The non-het shin. It's the way those energies go together in the upper world, manifest in
Yes.
the thing on the ground.
Exactly, because the reality of the physical world it comes directly from the spiritual world. It's not disconnected. We've got the world of Yeg Ein Sof, then you've got Tzimtzum, then you've got Adam Kadmon, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, Asiyah, and then you've got the physical world. Okay, and the physical world is not separated from that. It comes as a continuation. Okay, and the elements which appear in this world as physical have their spiritual roots in the higher spiritual worlds. Okay, and we're going to be looking precisely at these connections when we're looking at the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Okay, so it's not an accident that he calls it a snake. Okay, that's very important.
But it didn't have those qualities. It had legs.
Yes.
It was a measure.
Okay, so
it had legs originally.
so it got worse, didn't it?
Yeah.
It got worse. Okay, Shayna, wonderful.
But it's not that it's a snake, it's that it's the nachash that manifested our world.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So first we're just looking.
That it isn't. Go back to the shore.
That's right. So we're going to be looking, when we learn this material, we've not started yet, we're going to be looking at this material from this perspective of what the story says and what is the spiritual roots. Okay? What are the elements in the story actually saying? Okay? All right, great.
Are we decoding backwards almost?
We're not going to be decoding it. Rabbi Ashlag's doing all the decoding for us.
But
Okay?
it's going from, he's doing it from the physical up into that charge.
Your question is a good question. All right. Your question is basically, how does Rabbi Ashlag know what the roots and branches, what the branches and the relationship to the roots really are? Okay. And I think it's a good question, because that's another point we need to look at. When we actually dive deep into Rabbi Ashlag's explanation, it really feels as if he's kind of a fly on the wall there, and he was present, and he could see exactly what was going through Chava's mind, and why she ate from the tree of knowledge, and what was the snake, and what he was actually saying. I mean, you really feel as if he was present, and in a way he was, because the other aspect of the Torah and mitzvot and the stories of the Torah is it's eternal. So one of the things that we learn in Rabbi Ashlag's way of looking at the Torah is, one of the things that we really learn is that everything that we read in the Torah is also within our own souls. Okay, it's kind of like, if anybody's heard of Gestalt psychotherapy or something, where you dream a dream, and then all the different elements in the dream are actually reflections of yourself. That's how he relates to Torah. So, for example, we have within ourselves the Adam, we have the Eve, we have the snake. Also, we have the Garden of Eden. We have outside the Garden of Eden. All the elements which are in the story are also elements within ourselves. And this is true for all the stories. Huh?
A hologram.
Very much so.
fractal.
Very much so. This is exactly the way he looks at the Torah. So it's absolutely true. Okay, so in other words, we need to find what is the Garden of Eden inside of us, Adam, Eve, the whole story. Okay, as how we actually find those elements within ourselves. Okay, because
let's find the Garden of Eden in ourselves.
Yes, we're going to go take step by step. We're going to get there.
When we were learning with you before Purim, and
Yeah,
we were learning with all the different characters in the Purim story,
that's right.
it was similar.
That's right.
I remember that. So this is
That's his gisha. That's his way.
and it's very similar to IFS, internal family systems, which is
Yes.
very common right now. Like we all have all these energies, desires, thoughts, feelings inside of us. It's just harnessing them and having our self, having our sense of self, acknowledging them. They
But
don't need to all
helping
let
them get
out,
along.
but they're
That's
there.
right. That's right.
It's similar to that a little bit.
Yeah, the Torah, and I believe that, first of all, the Torah is one. Okay, so we have different levels of the Torah, and the Torah is eternal, so that all the different levels are all present. And the Zohar says, Oraita kudsha brichu v'Yisrael hadhei. Oraita, the Torah, the Holy Blessed One, okay, and the soul are one. All right, so our soul is one with the essence of the Torah. Okay, now I think this is an amazing statement because we can't know God directly, we can't know HaKadosh Baruch Hu directly, and we can't know our soul directly, but we can learn what is our soul through the Torah. The Torah is the bridge. Okay, that's what we call Gilui, revelation, the Torah on Mount Sinai, that God came down and gave us the Torah on Mount Sinai. He gave us the knowledge of our own souls, of who we are. It's amazing, okay? Very good. Now then, I think, I'm looking at the clock, I'm thinking of what we're going to do today. This piece of writing, I can really recommend it to you. It's on the link, okay? It's called The Four Languages, all right? Maybe I'll just explain them quickly without going through all of them. The language of Tanakh, because this is important, we're going to be looking at the language of Tanakh. The language of Tanakh is the root language for all four languages and constitutes the principal language of the true wisdom. It is extremely suitable for its purpose because in general, it uses a direct relationship between the physical branch that's found in this world and its spiritual root. It is an extremely easy language to understand, okay, and is the most ancient of all four languages. Indeed, the sages relate it to the language that was used by Adam and Eve. It has two virtues and one disadvantage. Its virtue is that it's easy to understand, and even those who are only beginning to get spiritual attainments can quickly understand all that they require. A second virtue is that it's able to explain the issues under consideration in greater amplitude and depth than is possible in the other languages. But it has one serious disadvantage, and that it's impossible to use it to speak of details of how matters are connected with respect to cause and effect. For example, okay, we're all told on Sukkot that we have to build Sukkot and that we have to take a lula, we have to take a branch of enough eitzavot, va'arvei nachal, okay, we're not actually told precisely how to build the sukkah or how to, and how, or precisely what constitutes the etrog or anything like that. Okay, you're given the sort of general instructions, but not the details. So that's what he means by saying that the language of Tanakh is not great for the details. Okay, all right. And the reason why it's not so good is because in this language, every detail would require a complete discourse, and otherwise it's not clear which element it's speaking. All right. So it's not useful language for dealing with individual or small elements, and neither is it particularly useful for cause and effect. And they say there's no before and after in the Torah. Okay. On the other hand, the language of prayers and blessings is taken from the language of the Torah. Okay, the language of halakha is drawn from the language of Torah, but I'm not going to go into it now because it's not relevant to us right now. And we're not going to look at the language of Agadah either. You can read that in the material. The language of Kabbalah. The language of Kabbalah is an actual language in the fullest sense of the word. It is extremely accurate, both with respect to root and branch, and with respect to cause and effect. So in the language of Kabbalah, you do get before and after, you do get what causes what, okay? This language has a particular virtue because through this language, you can refer to and discuss individual and particular elements without limit, which is what you can't do with the language of the Torah. You can get right to the element under consideration without the need to connect it with what precedes it, what follows it. But it has one very serious problem, okay? It's very difficult to grasp. A person needs to have some understanding of his own, of the spiritual stages. He needs to understand how the spiritual stages unfold from below to above, from above to below. And it's really extremely difficult language unless he's first taught it from a sage who himself received it directly from his teacher. Okay, all right. So the language of Kabbalah, in order to understand it, we need a great sage like Rabbi Ashlag, who's able to tell us precisely what each word means. Okay, and that's why we need the Perush of Rabbi Ashlag, because Rabbi Ashlag had an incredible, unbelievable grasp of the relationships between root and branch. And I would say that his epic work, you know, the 16-volume work on the language, on the work of the Ari, is a spiritual dictionary. It's all about those connections, all right? And he wrote a dictionary as well. I mean, his work is unbelievable. Okay, so the language of Kabbalah is very useful for looking at inside these stories to understand what the branches are, what the roots are, how they connect, what it really means. But it's a very difficult language to learn. So that's why we need a great sage like Rabbi Ashlag to help us. Great. So that's kind of more or less our introduction, which is like how we're going to look at this story. Okay. And there was one other proviso that I want to say before we jump straight in. And that is, I'm sure you've all heard and read lots of different commentaries from other places on the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Okay. Now, I'm not in any way saying that one is better than the other or anything like that. It's absolutely not the case. But I would say that the great sages interpreted the stories according to their own perception. So their own particular vessels. So you can't really, look at one Perush and compare it with another Perush. It doesn't work, all right? You've got to stick with the one you're learning rather than try to say, oh, well, Rav Ashlag says this, but Rav somebody else says that somewhere else. Because the use of language, the perception, it's all different. I like to think of it as, you know, you've got a beautiful scene and you've got three painters sitting, painting the scene. One is an impressionist painter. One is, you know, pointillism, you know, just points, dots or something. And one is a classical painter, okay? When you look at the scene, the one who gives the most accurate reproduction, in my view, is the classical painter, but the others are also true in their own right, okay? For me, Rabbi Ashlag's explanations are classical in that sense that you can see things the clearest. It doesn't mean to say that the others are not good or they're wrong or anything. They're different perceptions and they're different ways of seeing things. And that's valid, it's totally valid. But I don't want to be muddling up different interpretations while we're learning, okay? If you want to compare them after the class, all right? So while we're here, we're just going to focus on Rabbi Ashlag's perception and see if we can understand it, okay? Great. Right, so now we can pass out the material. We're not going to do much today we're just going to start basically part of the first paragraph. So we'll just pass it around, and also this is the actual. I'm going to start that around that way then. Can I have one, because I forgot to bring my Tanakh with. Thanks.
Thanks for that.
Oh, yeah.
This is the first of the 5 weeks, right? So can we
We're going to take 5 weeks to do this material, okay? All right.
put our names on here and leave them here?
As far as I'm concerned, yeah. I mean, Judy's in charge of how she handles the material. I would suggest you leave them here, okay? I've put all the material on the website, okay? So if you want to refer to something during the week, look on the website, leave the material here so that poor Judy doesn't have to start doing more photocopying. It was enough as it was. All right.
No.
Okay. Is it 2 different things?
Yeah, there's 2 different things.
You
One
started this way,
Oh.
and started. This is just the technically,
Of the actual story.
A smile. I'll give you the whole pack. Smile.
Yeah. there's
Okay.
one more version of it.
Very good. All right, everybody got a, sorry?
Oh, this
Yes, that's it.
They come in my,
yeah.
the way my yellow.
It's just handy to have it right there.
Wait a minute. I think I do.
Is there another one of
Actually, I'm sorry, I missed out the first sentence that I put it on the text there. Okay, never mind. My fault. In the end of chapter 2, it's actually where the thing begins, and I forgot it when I printed it out. My fault. Right, now then. Okay. Now this is, I just want to tell you where this introduction appears. It's collected in the book of Hakdama of Rabbi Ashlag, and it's called the Hakdama Sefer Pamin Meirot Masbirot. It's the introduction to I think Pamin Meirot Masbirot is kind of like a welcome and illuminating revelations or something like that. It's a long introduction, a beautiful introduction, and it's got a lot of different aspects to it.
Okay, I mean, it's
Okay.
here, right?
All right. Masbirot. That's right.
the name of the book.
That's the name of the introduction.
Okay, and the whole book is.
And the
called
whole book is called the Pamin Meirot Masbirot. It was the very first book that Rabbi Ashlag wrote on the work of the Ari, and it's very difficult, and not many people learn it these days, but the introduction is phenomenal.
Okay.
Now we're going to start about 2/3 in to this introduction, where it says paragraph 15, okay? ובעמוד זכינו להבין המשך הפסוקים בחטאות של עץ הדעת טוב ורע.
Can you just hold it up a point?
Wait, which one? This one? Oh,
No,
this one.
the actual
Paragraph
introduction, that one
Can
there.
you just hold it up a point? Where it's starting from?
You said it's.
The right at the beginning, right at the very start. No, I only printed what we're actually going to use. Okay, oh, Tetvav. Yeah, okay, that's where we're beginning, the middle of the introduction. Ubamu, and what we've said. זכינו להבין המשך הפסוקים בחטאות של עץ הדעת טוב ורע. We have merited to understand the continuation of the verses in the sin of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. אשר עומק ורום להם, which have tremendous depth to them. וחז"ל גילו בהם טפח, and the sages who revealed in them tefach, a handbreadth, od kisu b'divreim asarat tefachim, nevertheless covered up their words with 10 handbreadths. V'hinei be'kdem ha'inyan kativ, and the sort of introduction to the whole story is written, and I'm sorry, I forgot to include that on this piece here. I
Why did they
apologize.
do that? Why did they cover?
1 second. Why did they what?
Why did they cover?
Well, we'll
10?
see. V'yu ha'adam v'ishto shneim arumim v'lo yitboshashu. And man and his wife, both of them were naked, and they were not embarrassed. V'da shinyan levush, and know that the issue of the garment, hunyan kli chitzon, is the issue of the external vessel, which I'm going to explain in a minute what it is. That's of the work of the Holy Ari. And this is what the scripture tells us first, to tell us the reason for the sin of Eitz Hadat, in the way that the sages taught us, pasuk from the verse in Tehillim, Noah alila livnei Adam. Hanoah, who is Hanoah? The Kodesh Baruch Hu, the most awesome one, caused this to the children of man. Asher ba'alila bat elav. God, the whole thing was planned by the Creator from the get-go, from the beginning. The sin was predetermined by the Creator. According to the measure of the scripture, that man and his wife, from the way they were formed, did not have an external vessel, which I'm going to explain what it is. They only had internal vessels, are drawn from the framework of holiness, and so they were not ashamed. They did not feel their lack. Now, we need to stop here, and we need to first of all take a while to explain what is an external vessel. So I got my whiteboard for explanations, okay, because we're going to need a little bit of okay. Very good bag. This. I feel like maybe Poppins.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to come out of it next.
Without physical vessel?
No, we're going to find out what is this vessel? What are we talking about? What does it mean, Klipitz on light? What is it all about? Okay, so we're going to find out from the beginning. All right, what is the purpose for which the human being was created? All right, so where do we always start? When we don't understand anything, we begin from the Ein Sof. Begin at the beginning. Ein Sof. Does it matter if I write in Hebrew letters or you want English letters? It's okay? Ein Sof. All right? All right? What is the Ein Sof? The infinite. The infinite means infinite light, which is the infinite goodness of God. The word light means the goodness of God. Okay? And that God wants to give us infinite goodness. That's his purpose of creation, to give goodness to all created beings. Okay, so if you want to give goodness to any created being, what does that created being need to have? A desire to receive that goodness. Okay, absolutely. If anybody given you a present which you didn't really want, okay, what do you do with it? You don't know where to put it. Okay, you've got to have that desire to appreciate the goodness.
Space to hold it.
Huh?
An empty space to hold it.
And yeah, what's the empty space? That desire, that longing, that lack. You have to listen to Omer Shem Tov. I don't know if you've been listening to him. Omer Shem Tov was one of the captives and you listen to how he discovered his lack for God in those tunnels. You have to listen to him. It's unbelievable.
The guy who's he dived into a crack.
What's the last name?
What?
Omri.
He dived into a crack.
Omer.
Yes, yeah. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
What's his name?
Yeah.
Pamin
So,
Meirot?
okay, so we got to have a desire first. Okay, so what do we have in the Ein Sof? We have the light,
But-
right, and the vessel. Okay, that is the goodness and the desire for the goodness. All right, which Rabbi Ashlag calls the Ratzon Lekabel. All right, and that's in the language of Kabbalah. The vessel is called the Malchut. All right, the Malchut of the Ein Sof. What?
I'm sorry, didn't the Ein Sof first need the desire to give the goodness?
That's what I just said.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, so that is what we have in the Ein Sof, and that's called the purpose of creation, that God wants to give goodness to all created beings. Okay, now there happens to be a slight problem with that. What's the problem? That the light is all giving, all right, it wants to give, and the vessel is receiving. All right, it's a vessel wants to receive. Now in the Ein Sof, there's no problem. Hu ushmo echad. In the Ein Sof, Hu ushmo echad. He and his name are one. The light and the vessel are in perfect harmony. Okay, so as far as the Ein Sof is concerned, everything's fine. But the Malchut, the vessel of the Ein Sof, and we don't really understand how this happens, okay? Nobody's really understands this. Rabbi Ashlag writes about it. This is the wonder of Hakol Yacholto Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's the wonder of the omnipotence of God. Because there's a spiritual rule, and there's rules in spirituality just as there are in physicality, okay? That two elements with opposite desires separate. Okay? It's the rule of affinity of form. So if you can see what's the problem now. In the Ein Sof, there is no problem, and that's a miracle because nobody can understand how this happens. But in general, if one aspect is giving and the other aspect is receiving, what happens? They separate. Okay?
Like the North and South Pole magnets.
Yeah, I don't exactly. Yeah, they separate. Okay? All right, that's the spiritual rule. It's called the rule of affinity of form. So the Malchut of the Ein Sof, okay, and I'm going to put it in sort of like anthropomorphic terms, just to make it easier for us, felt that the light is all giving, all right, and it wanted to be a giver too, okay? It wants to learn how to give. There's another spiritual rule which says every branch wants to be like its root. All right, so I'm going to put my one dot there for one rule and one dot there for another rule. Okay, so we've got now two elements with opposite desires tend to separate, and every branch wants to be like its root. And the consequence of all of this was the Malchut said, I want to learn, and I think the real issue is I want to move from being a passive receiver to an active participant. I want to learn how to be an active partner with the Creator. I want to learn how to be an active partner with God. I know you've got your hand up, and I'm not going to stop at the moment, okay? So active partner with God, and therefore, it made the decision, which is called the Tzimtzum, all right? So the decision that it then made was, I choose. Letzamtzem et atzmi. Letzamtzem means to contract, to contract my own desire to receive, okay? And from this point onwards, I want to learn how to be a giver. All right, so I'm going to put this now in green, okay? That left
The
to
Malchut is the light, or the Malchut is the vessel?
the vessel. Okay, Malchut is the vessel. Okay, so now we have the Tzimtzum. The decision of the desire to do Tzimtzum was the decision of the vessel. Okay. Okay, 2 questions. All right.
Mine was, I don't understand how you're describing like Malchut and like Malchut said and Malchut wanted to do.
I prefaced it by saying I'm going to put it anthropomorphically to make it easier to understand. Okay.
But even if it's not Malchut, but even so, it still just sounds like.
If you want to read the original, I can give you the original material. What? Well, the Holy Ari writes, Kishekatatsmo, okay, or as or Allah sono, it arose within his will. Okay, so I sort of translated it by the Malchut desired. Okay, but the actual writing of the Ari is Allah sono, it arose within his will. No, it rose within, he's talking specifically about the will of the Malchut.
So that's my question. How can Sphira have a desire?
Well, okay, if you want to learn these questions, it's very good questions. I'm not denying this question, but I can't deal with the whole of it now. We have to set up a class where we learn the work of Rabbi Ashlag step by step. Okay, then we get the answers to these questions. Okay, because your question is, how can a Sphira have a desire? What is a Sphira if it's not a desire? The Sphirot are desires. Okay? That's what the Sphirot are. Those are the only way we can receive the light of God is through desire. Okay, that's what the Sphirot are. The Sphirot are desires for the light of God. Okay, yes.
Otherwise we'd
My
be
question
separate.
goes back to the step before this, where you have that which is radiant and that which is receptive, which is somehow.
It's okay. What is radiant? Let's use the language here. The radiant of the light of Rabbi is the goodness.
The goodness
Okay, is the goodness is giving, and the vessel, which is called the Malchut, is receiving.
Radiant and receptive. You have these 2 aspects of Ein Sof, which is beyond concept. But when they are, there's no relationship until one wants, until a desire arises within the receptive, and then there's movement. And that's what the whole essence of desire is, that movement from one to the other, and then the giving back, the response.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I get exactly what you're coming to.
Okay.
Well, okay, we're going to be looking at that issue right now.
Okay.
Okay, so we then come to Tzimtzum. What is the Tzimtzum? The Tzimtzum means that the vessel, and it's from the perspective of the vessel decides, okay, that it wants to constrict itself because it wants to learn to be a giver. And from there, the worlds unfold. Okay? Now, the worlds unfold, and again, like if you really want to learn these things in detail, we really need to make a special class for it. Okay? But it'll take us a year. I'm not joking. All right? And I don't mind doing it. I'll do it with pleasure if people are interested. So, because this is a decision of the created, okay, that the world's the vessels of the created, the Malchut wants to function according to its decision, which is the decision to only receive what it's able to receive for the sake of giving. It doesn't manage to do it in one go. Okay, in the Ein Sof, it's a infinite light with an infinite vessel. That's the creator. But the created, okay, is not as able to function in the way that the creator does. And so starts what's called the tikkun of creation. And the tikkun of creation begins from the tzimtzum, and we haven't yet reached its end. When we reach its end, that will be the Gemara tikkun. Okay, we're still in the process. And what is the process? The process is a very gradual process of unfolding the worlds, okay? And I've got here a picture, I took it from a diagram, so it's a bit small, okay? A picture of the unfolding of the worlds. And the unfolding of the worlds works like what can function according to the rules of Tzimtzum is called the kav, is called the line, all right? So if you can think about the Ein Sof, okay, and what the framework of holiness, the framework is now a carved up, one thin line of light, which goes from the Ein Sof all the way down to this world. And that is represented by this first column here. And then gradually, it adds more and more it adds more and more interactions in the framework of holiness. But look what's happening. Each time it's able to do less and less and less. Okay? All right. Are we going to get the purpose of creation finished that way? Rabbi Ashlag says, imagine that this first way of receiving the light in the framework of holiness, the first interaction, say you get 20% of the light, okay, from the Ein Sof into the vessel, okay, in affinity of form is 20%. The next one is less, say 10%.
It's because we probably would have exploded.
Well, maybe, yeah. The next one is 5%, 3%, 2%. You're never going to get the purpose of creation done that way. Purpose of creation is on 100%. Okay, how are we going to get the purpose of creation fulfilled that way? That's the framework of holiness, the one in blue. Okay, now, the Creator realizes this, obviously, that it's all planned from the beginning. Don't worry about it. Okay, so then we get an interaction here, which I've done in sort of bluey yellow, which is the bit which is called Tzimtzum Bet. There's a further Tzimtzum in which we bring in the midah of compassion. This is according to strict rule. The rule is, following the Tzimtzum, I'm not allowed to receive much for the sake of receiving. That's the rule now, following the Tzimtzum, okay? This bit in the middle is the interaction with compassion. It brings the light a bit further down, okay? It looks a bit better. The real main problem is the red bit, okay? And the real main problem is the main part of the vessel, all right? The main part of the light, the main part of the vessel. Okay, what are we going to do about this? Okay, these systems here only start us off. They don't finish it. Okay, so then God said, let us make man. Okay, let us make man. And the purpose of man is to be created dafka from these most difficult parts of the vessel. Okay, the most dense parts, the most difficult parts, the hardest parts to deal with, all the difficult things. Let us make man and he'll do it. Okay, all right, so he consulted with the angels, and we'll read the parable another time. I don't think we'll have time in these 5 lessons, but he asks the angels, asking the angels again, it's a parable. God doesn't need to ask anybody about anything, right? It's a parable, all right? And the answer really is man is created specifically to do the work of dealing with the most difficult part of the reality, so that we can transform all of this part of reality for the sake of giving, and thus finish the tikkun. Okay? So the way to do it is the human being has to have within him 2 frameworks. He's got to have within him the framework of holiness, but he's also got to have within him the framework of evil. Because if he doesn't have the framework of evil, he can't transfer elements from the framework of evil to the framework of holiness. It's only by doing the Torah and mitzvot to transform this transformation that this transformation can actually happen. So 1 second. So what is I want to get back to this piece that we read. And the Torah tells us that man and his wife were created only from the framework of holiness. And they didn't have a kli chitzon. They didn't have an external vessel in their creation. They didn't have the framework of evil in their makeup at all. Okay, so the way they were created wasn't finished. So what is he saying here? Let's go back to these words. Okay?
Snake will help them.
Vahayu Adam.
That's right. The snake will help them.
It's what?
The snake will help them. That's what she said, to get the evil part inside of them.
Yes. Yes. Vahayu Adam ve'ishto shneim arumim. And both man and his wife were both naked. Velo yitboshashu. And they were not ashamed. V'da she'inyan levush. And know that the issue of a garment, huinyan kli chitzon, is the external vessel. What's the external vessel? All the desires of the evil inclination, all the external desires, all the desires for our wills to receive for ourselves alone. They didn't have that at all. And therefore the scripture prefaces to us this important statement, to teach us the reason for the sin of the tree of knowledge. And we'll talk about another time, not today, why it had to come via a sin. In the way that the sages taught us, this is from Tehillim, okay, that the awesome one caused this on purpose to human beings. He set it all up. That God came to him ba'alila in this, it was all set up.
So wait, what does alila mean then?
Alila is like a trick or something, or like a shenanigans, yes. His sin was prepared for him right from the get-go. And this is the measure of the scripture. That what it means by saying that they were naked means they didn't have all the desires for the wills to receive for ourselves alone, of power, of gashmiot, of ta'avot, and all the other stuff that we have. They only were created from their inner vessels. They had the soul, yes, which come from the framework of holiness. And that's the reason why they were not embarrassed. They didn't feel any lack. Because feeling of shame, it means there is a lack. You feel shame when you feel a lack. As we know, the feeling of lack is the first cause to fulfill the lack. Like, for example, somebody who feels he's ill is prepared to go to the doctor, okay? But somebody who doesn't feel he's ill, he's not going to go to the doctor. He feels he doesn't need anything. And therefore this feeling of lack, and here the lack he's talking about is the lack of connection with the Creator. Okay, the yearning for the light of God, the lack of connection with Him, this is laid upon the external vessel. What's the external vessel? All our yetzer hara, all our desires to receive everything, okay, which comes in the building of the body, in the actual makeup of the body. And all our wills to receive for ourselves alone, which Rabbi Ashlag describes the yetzer hara as being, is empty of light. because it comes from the halal panui, from the empty space. What's the empty space? The halal panui, all the red bit. Okay, all the bit which isn't in the framework of holiness. And because it's not in the framework of holiness, it doesn't have any light, because it's in complete opposition of form from the Creator, because it's disobeying the rules of Tzimtzum. Okay, since Tzimtzum, we're not allowed to receive ourselves alone.
Can you
Okay.
give an example of something not related to human beings, because this presumably existed before humans were created?
No, they're talking about human beings here. We're talking about the creation of human beings.
No, but you said human beings were created in order to deal with the negative stuff.
Yes.
So the negative stuff existed before the human beings.
Well, in theory, yes. Okay, there's one aspect which existed before, and that's called the breaking of the vessels. Okay, so the breaking of the vessels, when the vessels broke, they received for themselves alone. Okay, in the actual practice. And this breaking of the vessels is exactly the same issue as the sin of the tree of knowledge, except that the breaking of the vessels is regards the worlds, and the issue of the tree of knowledge is regards the human being and the souls. Okay, but before breaking of the vessels and before the human being, there was
everything was in the realm
everything was in the realm of holiness. There was a potential for the framework of evil, which is called the halal panui, and that potential was because the framework of holiness only occupied, say, 20% of the vessel. So all the rest, 80% is empty. Okay, and an empty vessel is like, I want the light. Okay, so the potential was there. Okay, but it didn't actually happen until the breaking of the vessels happened. That was the first time in actual practice. And the other time it happened was with the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which was for the human being. Okay? Okay, so that's when it actually happened in practice. Before then, it's in potential only. All right, so let me just get to the end of the paragraph. So because this empty vessel, this external vessel, which is built into the body of the human being after he eats from the tree of knowledge only, gives him the feeling of emptiness and lack. And he feels shame because of it. And therefore it forces him to fill up that lack, which he, therefore to pull towards him more light, which is lacking. And therefore to fill this vessel which he got as a consequence of the sin of tree of knowledge, he gets emptiness. And so what is the scripture telling us here right from the get-go? Adam and his wife were naked. They didn't have any emptiness. They didn't have any Yetzer Hara. They didn't have any will to receive for themselves alone. They were entirely built from the framework of holiness. All they had was this beautiful neshama that God had breathed into them. And that was it. Okay? And so they didn't have any of this. And that's why they were naked. And that's why they weren't ashamed. They didn't feel any lack because they didn't have any lack. They didn't have the means to feel a lack at that point. Okay, 1 second, last sentence. They didn't feel their lack. And the most important sentence is the last one here. And thus, at this point, they are negated for fulfilling the actual purpose for which they were created. We said that they create, until I'm not having questions right in the middle. Okay, I'm sorry. They were created to deal with this whole aspect of the will to receive oneself alone. Okay, and they haven't got the vessels to do with it. Okay, the way they're created, they were created only created from the blue bit and the yellow bit. How are they going to deal with this red bit if they haven't got any vessels to deal with it? Okay? And on this happy note, we're going to stop till next week. Right. Okay, now you can ask me.
So why did the
Wait a
rabbis?
minute. She's been asking, she's wanting to ask a question for ages. So poor girl, let me.
The bottom thing is, at that point, before the das, they are incomplete vessels.
Yes, and they are incomplete, exactly. They're not actually able to fulfill the purpose for which they were created. Exactly. Yeah, for which, yeah, so exactly, well done. So what you're actually saying is that this is part of the creation of Adam and Eve. Okay? Now, the next question is, why did it have to happen this way? Couldn't God have created them properly in the
We're not
first
ready for
place?
the next question.
Huh?
This isn't.
No, but if they actually like didn't listen to the Nachash and they ate only from the tree of Das, then would it just be like a complete world that they're first?
You're on the right lines totally. Excellent. Well done. Okay, so we're going to discuss those questions, those issues further on in the introductions. Brilliant. I really like that.
So
It
the last.
sounds like you're saying that that humans were created to deal with something that didn't exist yet. It's like,
Yes and no, it does exist. Okay, because since the breaking of the vessels, it does exist in reality. Okay. However, the way they were created from the beginning, the way they were created in the Garden of Eden, the whole issue of the Garden of Eden is that they were only had the soul, basically, and they had the framework of holiness. And how can you correct something if you don't have it in you?
so in a sense, that's saying Arumim is a positive thing. Like, we're all trying to get rid of our Yetzer Hara to get back to a state of Arumim.
Okay,
So
right.
really-
1 second. We want, right. But I understand what you're saying, and that's in a way is very understandable, because say, wouldn't it be much easier for us to have been created in the framework of holiness and not to have to deal with the Yetzer Hara in the first place? Okay, but Rabbi Ashlag is going to say Olim b'kodesh v'lo yodim, that in fact this way is better. Okay. So we're going to have, these are all very good questions. Everybody here is asking wonderful questions. I'm sorry I can't always take them at the right moment, but what can I do? All right. Everybody's asking wonderful questions, and we're going to look at all the questions that you've raised in the next 4 weeks.
So why did the rabbis say, they covered up the 10 hand breaths so that we could?
The thing is that the knowledge of Kabbalah only unfolds with the development of the generations. And Rabbi Ashlag says that the generations are now ready to learn this material. Okay, and the souls develop as the worlds go on. And I mean, you can see the young people today. The young people today are amazing. They are totally, they're totally different from our generation. We can see the development of how much more aware, how much more consciousness they have, how much more ability they have to give of themselves. You know, you can see the development of the soul's development, getting closer and closer to the Maratikun. And that's why he's now able to uncover material which wasn't able to be uncovered in previous generations.
Even that we are sitting here learning this now. Like we want to, yeah, like us. We like and we're sort of following along, at least something.
I want to tell people, when I first came across this work of Rabbi Ashlag, it was not open for women at all.
Wow.
Okay, absolutely not. And even before, up to Corona, in Rabbi Avram Mordechai Gottlieb's Beit Midrash, he's one of the most foremost teachers, Rabbi Ashlag, amazing man, amazing rabbi. You would go to his Beit Midrash, and the women were not learning at all, and it was only for the men, up to Corona. So that's when was that? 5 minutes ago. Okay. I was there this last Shabbos. I go as often as I can. Now the Beit Midrash is just one room. The women are on the left-hand side. The mechitza is in the middle. The men are on the right-hand side. Rabbi Gottlieb has equal access to both men and women. Men and women learn equally, and we can ask any questions we like, and we all learn the same material. That's the development. The development is phenomenal. Okay.
Where?
Rabbi,
Just repeat Corona.
unbelievable, like unbelievable. This is the development. So your question is because we're now able to learn in a more open way because the souls have developed closer to the Gemaltikul. That's what
I
Hashem.
heard this cool point about developed during COVID and also like the wars, like especially in Israel, that they're going after. That like each, all the kids, even if they're not kids or whatever, they're growing up with some type of understanding that there's a God. So it's like very interesting how like just